And we're live. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Carl. Good morning, everyone. Good morning for our Board Director virtual meeting, June 17, 2021. Basically, I am today in Finch with past Chair Bill and our General Manager, Angela and Diane. We have in the back end. Logistically, they're trying to get this meeting going as usual in the last 15 months. How for us, and I want to thank our staff. I want to thank the people that are watching us on the YouTube channel or online, and I want to thank also the board member for their input and working hard at this difficult time for COVID. So thank you very much. Without further ado, we have a very light agenda. We're going to try to go as fast as we can, but also of course as informative as we can. So making sure that we conduct and do all our business today. We have number 2 on agenda. Can I have an approval of the SNC Board Directors main and supplement agenda? Yeah, go ahead, Jerry. Thank you.
I so move.
And seconded by, I see Archie. All in favor? Thank you. Motion carried. Number 3, declaration of conflict of interest. Seeing none, thank you very much. And number 4, our beautiful and best session in our meeting this morning. We have an SNC project update PowerPoint presented to us by staff. So they keep us informed and they keep us engaged on what's going on in our watershed. So thank you very much. And I'll ask, first presenter will be, I think it's Chris, if I'm not mistaken.
Good morning, board and staff. This is just a update on the healing place, which was been put in last year. Again, just a quick change on the thing there. I know it says staff, but it was actually my wife, and my children that tied the ribbons there. I was off that day on a sick day in commemorative of the children's remains that were found in Kamloops. And we tied 215 ribbons on the trees in their remembrance. And that was on June 1st, and it'll be redone again in the upcoming year. So next slide. Here's the new sign that will be going up shortly on the healing place. It shows all of our partners, and it's open to anybody that would like to go. We've gone in and done some maintenance on the site so that it's a little nicer, and hopefully we will continue to do work on it as we go. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chris, for the presentation, and thank you for doing all the work on behalf of the board and on behalf of our staff. We thank your family and yourself for doing all the work and preparing for this, for the unfortunate incident, and for remembering those 215 children that they lost their life. Any comment to Chris? Thank you very much, Chris. Job well done. Next presenter is John.
Thank you and good morning, board. A quick update on our youth fish camps. This was a topic of discussion at our committee meeting yesterday. You'll recall last year we brought a revised program delivery plan to the board to proceed with our youth fish camps. At this time, we are suggesting to proceed with launching registration next week. This is a popular program that we've traditionally hosted at our conservation areas throughout the region. At this time, we're tentatively confirming fish camp dates at 3 of our different conservation areas, being Castbridge, Jessop's Falls, and High Falls. And the dates on your screen are tentative pending registration that we plan to launch next week. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for the quick update concerning the youth fish camps. I know that lots of kids probably excited to go back and participate in those programs. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of people that are anxious to start going out and enjoy the, the fishing and camping and all that stuff. So I have a question from
Councillor Mellon.
Sorry, Archie, go ahead.
Yes, John, those tentative dates, will they be on condition of the health unit giving the okay on those dates? And when will you know, I guess if you will, for sure to get that word out, like, you know, that they are solid dates for sure on those fish camps?
Of course, the biggest piece of the puzzle has to happen first is registration. Obviously, we did have our plans approved by the Leeds, Grenville, and Eastern Ontario health units last year when we were moving ahead to proceed with these plans. So the dates are actually going to be contingent really on registration that we expect to roll in pretty fast, Archie. Our plans will be shared with the health unit, and the province has provided the go-ahead that summer camps can proceed, specifically though only in July and August.
So it's already been approved by the province and the health units, those
Yes.
the gatherings, okay?
And once those dates are confirmed, our revised safety plan will be provided to the Eastern Ontario Health Unit.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question, Archie. Thank you very much. Any other question? Seeing none, thank you very much, John. The next presenter is update from Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. Each time we acquire a new property, we begin to assess what values are on the property so that we can better manage them for the future. We've done that on our most recent acquisition up in Alfred Plantagenet. It's part of the Dickinson Creek Wetland Complex. We did a wildlife assessment and recorded over 35 species, including 3 species at risk birds. One of those was the Canada warbler, and this was the first observation on SNC properties for that species. We also conducted a plant inventory, which is still in progress. We've assessed one of the ecological communities on the property. It's referred to as an open heath savanna. There are at least 3 more ecological communities to assess on the property, and to date we've recorded over 34 species. And the photograph is of the wildlife assessment, and thanks to Brent Harbers, he was able to capture one of the current residents of the property.
Thank you very much, Pat, for the presentation. Those are very good residents, and they're welcome on our properties all the time for good habitat. So, any question or comment to Pat? Thank you very much, Pat. I'm hoping that in the future, when you find out more what's in that property, you can circle back and give us more update. Thank you. Next presenter will be Michelle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week and this week, our team has been out sampling fish in the upper reaches of the Bear Brook. This work is part of the South Bear Brook Catchment Study, which is supported by the City of Ottawa. Now, because of the variation in the size and depth of the Bear Brook in that area, we're using a variety of different sampling methodologies. So things like setting trap nets, seine netting, or electrofishing, depending on the site. And the fish community in the river can provide a lot of information on the quality of the water and the overall health of the river. So for example, if we find a lot of sensitive cool water species, then we know that that section of the river is in better health and is experiencing less disturbance. The fish community also helps us to provide a fulsome suite of recommendations in the catchment study that can be carried forward into a subwatershed plan. For example, areas with more sensitive species could be recommended to have a larger buffer along the river to protect the water quality in that fish community. The City of Ottawa and SNC staff will be able to use the recommendations to inform land use planning and also stewardship efforts in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Very interesting update, and we appreciate all the work that you guys do on the field. Any question concern or any comment to Michelle? Thank you very much, Michelle. Next presenter is probably Allison, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, good morning, board members. The approvals department is always working hard to find balance when it comes to development. Our goals are representing the public interest, protecting the environment, and also meeting the needs of our developers. Some urban sites can be pretty challenging, both due to space limitations, commercial pressure, but also increasingly due to community scrutiny. So South Nation does have a number of technical experts. As you know, we offer technical review services, but something we've been doing more and more of lately is providing our municipal partners with access to some of our other qualified experts, including our arborists like Caro. In this situation, we're working with municipal staff to provide a recommendation to retain some urban forest cover, but still maintain good visual access to the commercial plaza that's being developed downtown. So we do want to promote that we are looking to find solutions, looking to work with municipalities where we can. And if you do have some challenging sites that you need help with, we're here for you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Allison. And I know that you guys are very busy in the back end, and I know that lots of application to work with our residents and our clients. So thank you very much for you and your team. Any question or comment for Allison? Seeing none, thank you very much, Allison. Next presenter is James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A common question that we get in the approvals department is whether a feature on the ground is actually a watercourse. We get these questions from every township and also from landowners around the watershed. And it's often unclear because the feature doesn't have flow for much of the year, and perhaps it's been a feature that's modified or engineered. Does it still qualify as a watercourse? And this is important because if it is a watercourse, then zoning setbacks may apply. A study might be required to clarify whether it has habitat, aquatic habitat or not. So this is something that is often brought to us to bring in to help clarify. We're able to bring technical information. We can indicate the different functions of the watercourse based on recognized protocols. We may have local knowledge of the feature. We do surveys around the watershed. We collect data through our monitoring programs. All of that is available to the townships and to the landowners to help clarify whether it's a watercourse or not for implementing policy. This example here in the picture is in the city of Ottawa. We were contacted by the city because there was work taking place on the property, and they discovered this watercourse. I was in the field, so I was able to do a site visit and take some pictures and have our ecologists look at that. And then Jeff, our regulations officer, was able to meet with the landowner on site and talk about sediment and erosion control. So we were able to do that all within about 2 or 3 days, provide that to the city and help them make a decision on whether to apply the zoning setback. So this is a common question, and when you do see this, feel free to contact our staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. I know this has become a very lots of issue with our landowner around the watershed, and no one want to talk about watercourse, especially when we're going to enforce the setbacks and always controversy between our landowner and staff. So thank you very much. This is a very difficult items, and those subjects are always sensitive to be able to work with the landowner and the regulator, which is the city bylaws. So thank you very much, James. Any question for James from the board members? Seeing none, thank you very much, James. We have next 3 slides presented to us by John, so you can lead the way.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first update is on our property in the Augusta Township. We are happy to report, I believe as of 2 weeks ago, that the land transaction has been complete. We now own the property on the South Nation River on McRae Road in Augusta Township, which means that we can begin the site and get it ready to open to the public. So over the course of the next month, staff will be installing signs at the property and doing some landscaping work. and we aim to open this site to the public later in July. Wanted to put this on your horizon as we expect to bring back a board report in August to talk about the property and the future maintenance plans at the site. And I'll go to the next slide, please. In all of our sites, all of our conservation areas, we continue to manage ash trees and other dead and dying trees on our parks. With that, we did need to close a few of our parks last week and this week as well to complete some of that work. Places like Castbridge Conservation Area, the Oshman Forest Conservation Area are sites that we've been focusing on this month. The lumber that's being removed from the Oshman Forest this week will be donated to the House of Lazarus, so we're looking forward to that donation. And if we go to the next slide, just wanted to share what our monthly visitation looks like in our conservation areas right now. Not sure if I see it on the screen. If we can go to the next slide with the graph, thank you. This chart just shows the change in monthly visitation month to month at all of our conservation area sites that are open. You'll notice the ones on the far right were our seasonal sites that we opened for the May long weekend. Happy to report numbers are looking good and stable, very similar to the numbers and visitation that we saw last year. I should say for all of our seasonal sites, we are seeing a little more visitation than we saw last year, but very close and very similar to what we experienced in June 2020. So happy to see the parks being used heavily, happy to have welcomed visitors back for the May long weekend. And I believe as of today, all of our washroom facilities are now reopened at our sites as well. So we're looking forward to having people out in our parks this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. This is very good news. I know that with the beautiful weather out and people are anxious, they've been in lockdown for a long time. They need something to do. They want to enjoy the nature. And I'm so happy our staff were able to accommodate this to our community, our residents, that they want to come out and enjoy. Are we doing some, are we putting some PSAs and some announcement out to invite people back on through social medias and things like that?
Absolutely. And we issued a press release just 2 weeks ago about the opening of our conservation areas. We did a few interviews on radio, a few interviews for different publications. So happy to see that broadcasted publicly. But yes, now that the washroom facilities are in, we will do another blast on social to let folks know. I do see a question from Archie, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Archie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair and John. It's great to see the parks being used as much as they are. I have heard that, not that I walk too far, but I haven't walked through them, but in some of the trail areas and whatnot, there's a lot of ticks. Is there any signage to, I don't know, make people aware to, you know, as the song says, you know, let me check you for ticks sort of thing, you know, but yeah, is there any signage that, you know, just to give people, you know, watch for ticks or check for ticks, or I just curious, yeah.
Yeah, great question. You won't catch me singing the song, but we do certainly have signs up at most of our parks. And we also have a partnership sign at all of our county forest entrance as well that remind people to be aware of ticks. I should say, Archie, that we do have plans to replace all of our signs in our conservation areas this year. And so some of them are looking a little rough, but later in the summer, we will be swapping all of those out. Thank you.
Thank you, Archie. I have a question to you from Bill, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was also wondering if we should have some information on the removal of ticks. There's lots of information saying check yourself and remove them, but are there any rules we should follow with removing? Because I am told to be really careful they're not partially embedded. And I know I have seen they call it a tick remover, but I don't know where you get them or much about them. So is there information we should be adding on that?
Of course, and we do that training with staff every spring as well. It's very important. Most of our staff every day when we're out, we come home with ticks, so it's important to safely remove them, and as you suggested, not leave the head in the skin. But I think with that being said, we can post a video online this weekend to share some reminders on that as well, and we'll make sure that those are reshared throughout the summer, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Very good idea. I was going to mention that we do, there is some tick keys. I'm sure we can maybe take it offline and see how we can provide some to our user in the park in case, you know, people get busy and they forgot all about them. So maybe we can have a small campaign but we can take this offline. Those are very good information. Very good question by Archie and Bill. Thank you very much both. Any other question for John? Thank you very much, John. Our next update is Sandra. I know she's been very busy training new members in her team. And I missed to say to Omar left us last meeting, I guess it was his last meeting. I really enjoyed working with Omar. He always was dedicated member in our staff team, and he was always sending us email and giving us information about the flood and whatnot. I know we're gonna miss him, and I know looking forward to meet the new team under Sandra's lead. Sandra, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, board members. This is an update on the flood risk assessment project. So it's a partnership between Rideau Valley, Mississippi Valley, and South Nation Conservation Authorities. So the project goal is we are going to assess the risk of flooding in the three watersheds. And as a product of this, we're going to prepare a 10-year plan for flood mapping. So that will give us an idea how to move forward, and we will have a kind of amount of funding that we will require every year to complete the mapping. So we published a request for proposals on June 9th, 2021, and the closing date in here it says it's June 30th, but yesterday we received emails from consultants asking to delay the closing date because it's a big project. So we delayed the date, and now it's closing on July 6th. We have a budget of $240,000 for this for the consultant for the project. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thanks for the update, Sandra. Any question from board member? Seeing none, thank you very much. Our next update and presenter is Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, board members. Work is well underway on the Bear Brook Hazards Mapping Project. Watershed modeling has started, and SNC staff is currently out surveying public road crossings. We are currently expected to finish surveying the 39 public structures by the end of next week, and we will then focus on the 63 private structures in the following weeks. These structures typically include culverts and bridges, and this information is collected, will be entered into our model, and will in turn show us how these structures impact the floodplain elevation. Thank you.
Thank you, James, for the update. Any question? Thank you. Our next update and presenter is Ben.
Thank you and good morning, board. This update is regarding the Ottawa River Hazards Mapping Project. It is currently ongoing and will be ongoing until March 2022.
Up a bit, please. We're hearing you.
Sorry, you can't hear me?
No, a little. If you could a little louder, that would help, please.
Sure, for sure. So my apologies. So this update is regarding the Ottawa River Hazards Mapping Project. It is currently ongoing and will be ongoing until March 2022. The geographic extent of the project is from Cumberland to the Carillon Dam for approximately 65 kilometers. SNC staff will be very busy assessing water depths, assessing the effect of wind and ice on water level, updating our internal models, and also delineating new floodplain and erosion hazards to update our regulations line. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben, for the update. Any question? Any comment? Thank you, Ben. Next presenter and update is from Saber.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, everyone. Good morning, board members. My name is Saber. I have a master's degree in water resource engineering and currently finishing up my PhD, so also a PhD candidate at U Ottawa. My focus of my studies were in river engineering. I also have 7 years of experience in different fields of water resource engineering. I'm very thrilled to be joining the South Nation Conservation Authority, and as an environmental enthusiast, I will make sure to leverage my knowledge and experience to address goals and objects of the SNCA. Thank you so much.
Saber, thank you very much for joining us. We're really happy to have you part of our team, SNC team, and we're looking forward to get the update. And I know that you're going to enjoy working on our watershed. We have an amazing team, and I know that you're going to be a great addition to our team. So welcome on board from me and our board member and our staff.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next presenter is Mustafa.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mustafa. I have a background in computer programming and master in remote sensing and GIS outside of Canada, and I have a master in Guelph University in geography and GIS. And I've been working as a GIS analyst and developer for more than 6 years. And now I'm working with South Nation Conservation. Really glad to be a part of the team. My main responsibility focuses on working on collaborating with the GIS team, working on a data and a portal administration. Yeah, and it's a really good time for me in my life to be a part of South Conservation Nation.
Thank you, Mustafa. Looking about in your background and reading a little bit about your bio, so we're very happy. You're going to be a great addition to our team at South Nation. On behalf of the board and our staff, I'll welcome you to our team and looking forward to be working with you.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have Shaheen.
Yes.
Well,
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, board and staff. My name is Shaheen, and I got my master's from Concordia University in Water Resources Engineering. I have over 7 years of experience in the field of hydraulic modeling and hydrology modeling and flood modeling. Recently, I joined the SNC, and I'm working as a water resources specialist here, and I'm quite happy and honored to work with a great team of engineers here, and also I hope that I can have a good contribution toward your goals and objectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shaheen, and I know that you're going to be a great addition to our team. Looking about the background with the last three candidates that we have added to our team, I know that the SNC team is growing and we have lots of knowledge, and you can tell from all the experience and the engineering background, we're going to have very strong team moving forward into the next year. Welcome to the team, all of you, and I'm really happy, looking forward on behalf of the board to welcome you to the SNC team members. So looking forward to have some conversation with you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
With this, we'll end our presentation by staff. It was well done, and we introduced lots of good new team members to our team. So we can move forward with our agenda. Recommendation is the member approve the board directors electronic meeting minutes of May 20, 2021 as submitted. Any error or omission or we can have a mover and seconder, please. I see Bill and I see Pierre. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, when you get to the next item,
Yes.
do you think it makes sense to move 1A and make them number 5 and number 6? Because they're two reports from the meetings, so that we deal with them under committee reports in the main section from
new business?
Yes.
Okay, so from A and what?
It's 1A from supplementary.
Okay.
Parts 1 and 2. And that's the Communications Committee meeting and the Leitrim Wetlands Committee meeting. So we would deal with the 6 committee meetings together right now.
Sure.
can we have a mover and a seconder for that? And then we'll,
So moved.
a mover and seconder to move them and then for the minutes.
So that we can understand, where we might need to target our programs, what we need to take account of in our regulatory work. So
Fine, okay, that we have them muted, that is okay. So we're looking here to have first a mover and a seconder to move items 1A and B from the supplemental agenda to items, to add those 6 meeting minutes to item 5B of the main meeting agenda. So if we could have a mover and a seconder for that, please.
I got Bill and I have Dana. All in favor? Perfect.
Thank you.
And now we have the approval of the committee meeting highlight and minutes, which is we'll add those two to it, right?
That's correct.
Uh,
So we're seeking now, Mr. Chair, if there's no opposition, a global motion for all 6 sets of committee meeting minutes. And I'll just read briefly what they are, just to make sure everyone knows. So that will be the Forestry Committee meeting minutes of June 1st, 2021, the Fish and Wildlife Committee meeting minutes of June 1st, 2021, the Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committee meeting minutes of June 2nd, 2021, the Clean Water Committee meeting minutes of June 7th, 2021, the Leitrim Advisory Committee meeting minutes of June 11th, 2021, and the Communications Committee meeting minutes of June 16th, 2021.
Perfect, thank you. This is a global motion that's very job well done. So we add the 6, we bundled the 6 committee meetings all together. So can I have a mover and a seconder if there is no objection? I see Dana's hand and I see Pierre Archie's hand. All in favor? Motion carried. Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add or just say that each of these committees was very thoroughly done and there was a lot of interest in the different parts of each of the committees. And I want to say that the Leitrim Wetlands Committee has a number of community people, member representative of the NCC, and there are so many people that are involved in these committees that offer recommendations and suggestions, so be sure you review and note them.
I agree with you, Bill. You did very take a look at them. I know we have lots of people and stakeholders are involved in those committee meetings and of course in those all the committees. So thank you, Bill. I see Angela's put her hand.
Just Mr. Chair, in question to the board in general, we did that as a global motion. Is the board's wish for future direction that we would do those meeting minutes as a global motion, or would you like them individual? The reason we've sometimes done them on an individual basis is that if a board member has a declaration of conflict of interest on any one of the 6, for example, in this case, they wouldn't be able to pass the global motion for all 6. So if just a point of order, if the board wishes to discuss quickly, if they wish staff to leave them all individual, and then if it works, we can global motion normally bring them in individually.
Okay, that's a good question and good answer, good debate to talk about it. I know that Pierre and Archie has their hands up, so I start with Pierre.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we can vote on them as one global motion. However, if a member of the board wishes to separate an item, they just have to make that amendment to separate an item and vote on it separately. And then questions can be asked on that individual item if they wish.
Thank you, Pierre. Archie?
I did have a question on, I guess, the Clean Water Committee minutes. An item that was in there that came to my, I noticed it when I was reading the agenda. So, I mean, I'd like to ask the question about the one item in there on the Clean Water Committee minutes.
Yes, please go ahead, Archie.
Yeah, on the Clean Water Committee minutes, I think it's on page 42 of our agenda. As soon as I can get it scrolled up here, I can find it. It's it's something that jumped out at me, I guess, if you will, when I saw that the Clean Water Committee approved funding to South Nation in the amount of $12,000, I believe it was, for a weather station, a climate station. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that committee, they get their funding from South Nation, and it just sort of struck me as unusual that we fund that and then we turn around and we get the money back. Quite personally, I'd much sooner see that money kept for private individuals or companies or whatever to do different work or whatever projects they might have. I just found it unusual that, you know, we were approved $12,000 for a climate station when we're the ones that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the funding for that committee comes from the South Nation, and then we turn around and we get the money back from them. That was the only issue I had with it. I just felt that unusual. Maybe it's been in the past. I've never noticed it in the past, but it jumped out at me when I read the minutes over a few days ago.
Thanks, Archie. I think Angela have an answer.
Yeah, I do. Through you, Mr. Chair, this is actually whenever a number of committees were rolled together in a few years ago, there's a few different rules, and Rhonda can talk about the different committee funding here. But this is not actually South Nation money that funds the Eastern Ontario Water Resources Program. It's a separate grant. In this case, Rhonda, I'm not sure if this is the counties of UCPR or if this is a City of Ottawa grant for the Eastern Ontario Water Resources Program. Rhonda, are you there to provide clarification?
Yes, I am. And it is the funding from the City of Ottawa through their special levy.
Okay.
So it's City of Ottawa's a portion of their $50,000 annual contribution. Conservation authorities, including South Nation and other environmental groups and academia, are all welcome to submit proposals to the committee to advance recommendations under the Eastern Ontario Water Resources Management Study. We have almost every year applied for funding and have been approved, and this is actually our second year receiving funding for a climate station.
Okay, well, that makes me feel a little bit better. I was just thinking if this is coming out of the general levy, I just had a little bit of an issue with that money coming out of the general levy to fund that committee. But if it's, you know, if the protocol, the procedures are in place, that this is a normal practice, I'm good with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That's right. And just as a further point of order, board members are not, they're declared as, they would have conflict of interest.
Yeah.
And a board member is not allowed to vote on those items either. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that where somebody excused themselves, and I appreciate that. I just thought, and that's my my shortfall. I didn't realize that where the funding came from, and that's, you know, if it's a outside funding source, if you will, and not coming out of the general levy, then I can drive on. Thank you very much.
Actually, this is good, and thank you very much, because that's why we have those meetings and we have to have those discussions. And I want to thank Angela and of course Rhonda for clarifying that for you. But I have a hands up by Pierre, and after is Bill. Pierre, or your hand was just up? Okay.
Sorry, forgot to take it down. My bad.
Okay, Pierre, Bill, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to go back to, and I supported having one vote for all of the committees, but one of the reasons we sometimes dealt with them individually was because we often had the chairs do a presentation on the highlights of their meeting, and that gave our board members an opportunity to ask them questions and discuss in more detail. But doing it like that doesn't stop us from having one joint motion to move it forward. We can still go ahead like that, but I think that's an important part. That's the first point. The second point is, one of the discussions that came up with all of the four standing committees was, and this may be coming up later in the meeting, but one of them was, what type of meetings would you like to see in the future? And I think almost everyone said they prefer the face-to-face meetings and the direct interaction, although many of them said they can see a reason for having perhaps one or two virtual meetings, or having people that may have trouble getting to the meeting having that opportunity. So this will be a good discussion for later when we're talking about meetings in the future.
But yeah, you're right, Bill, and I totally, there is no reason why they can, when we resume back face to face, and we can put the global motion together, but there is no reason why we can give an opportunity to every chair to be able to say their comment, brief summary, and then a board can allow to ask questions. So I think Angela got the point, and
yes, and we will have a future report, probably in the month of August, just on return to work, return to board, return to committee.
Yes.
And I mean, we're already all returned to work, but just to talk about our adoption of how much will be virtual and how much will be in person. I know some municipalities are doing that already. I just think it's the jury's still out on a few of the issues, so I'd like to see how some of those shake up over the next few months, and you can expect to hear back from me in August on that.
Thank you very much, Angela. And thank you, board, for your collaboration and discussion over this item. And I think we already have a mover and seconder, and I think we all voted in, and the motion is carried. So we're going to move to new business 6A, and it's on the.
So this is back to our monthly updates on all the stuff we do, so that we're well positioned and ready when we have to have lots of discussions. So Rhonda, would you like to take it away?
Actually, Angela, I think the first slide is yours.
Give me a slide, that's really
It's your slide right there.
It is my slide. I guess they knew I would want to say something. Basically, yeah, as you know, we'll need program and service agreements for a lot of different things. And our partnerships on these things collectively each year total about $1 million to $1.5 million. So there is a lot for us to make sure we are ready for as we position this. And I may not, or Rhonda may not have been perfect in terms of getting all of these together this month, but certainly with your feedback and over time we will get there so that we are ready and perfect to have the discussion about all these things. So again, $1 million and $1.5 million of the budget is just on things like this, and this is outside of sort of regular and straight user fees. So Rhonda, please take it away.
Thank you. Can we have the next slide, please? So South Nation is one of the few agencies in Eastern Ontario that has staff working directly with landowners, municipalities, and industries. So basically boots on the ground. Our team of professionals and accumulative years of experience enables us to help take projects from the initial site visit through to implementation, evaluation, and reporting. Our staff live locally and have developed strong communication and connections with our local stakeholder organizations and property owners. We have well-established procedures for private land entry and comprehensive processes in place for landowner contacts to access private lands to complete data collection that's vital to our project implementation. We have the ability to quickly adapt, especially during this pandemic, finding ways to safely deliver our programs and services to our residents and partners. Next slide, please. With more than 80% of the land in Eastern Ontario in private ownership, empowering and supporting landowners to do stewardship activities is critical to maintaining a healthy, ecologically functioning watershed and in turn supporting healthy communities. Improvements on a watershed scale rely on private landowner stewardship to be achieved. We know from past studies and evaluations of our own programs that landowners are often quite willing to do work, but they lack the technical opportunities or support needed to actually see projects through. Programs like the Woodlot Advisory Service help property owners achieve their desired goals for their property while protecting and enhancing future forests. Next slide, please. The South Nation watershed is flat, clay-based, and it routinely exceeds provincial water quality monitoring objectives, especially for nutrients such as phosphorus and turbidity resulting from sedimentation. Agriculture is the predominant land use, and to achieve water quality improvements, it's imperative to engage with our local agricultural producers to help them adopt best management practices. Being able to accurately monitor progress and program success is essential. Water quality monitoring allows us to track changes over time, while also giving us early warning of any increasing trends of concern. Next slide, please. South Nation's programs and services are developed through comprehensive stakeholder engagement, whether through our existing standing committees, of which you've just seen minutes from 6 of them, or from special working groups that we pull together as needed. Forest cover loss is an ongoing concern in this region. Following our last published forest cover report, South Nation spent 2 years consulting with agricultural producers and other stakeholders to provide recommendations. The board approved the Protecting and Increasing Forest Cover in the South Nation Jurisdiction report at their August 2018 meeting. Since that time, we've adapted our forest stewardship, land acquisition strategies, and woodlot advisory services to implement recommendations of this report. The introduction of our municipal free tree giveaways is an example of how we've enhanced our tree planting program to increase urban tree cover. Next slide, please. We have had a successful partnership with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada for more than 20 years. We've supported local research on beneficial management practices and helped to test innovative technologies in our Eastern Ontario climate. This provides important environmental and economic study results to our local producers. These research initiatives not only help local producers to understand new technologies and best management practices, they provide valuable data on returns of investment so that landowners can make sound environmental and economic decisions while still protecting their environment. South Nation continues to work with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada on several service contracts relating back to the original watershed evaluation of beneficial management practices program. We provide annual vegetation surveys based on our high-skilled technical staff, and most recently have worked with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, contacting local residents and seeking permission for federal staff to monitor and collect data from private locations to support their research work. This partnership also saw the successful development of our state-of-the-art three-dimensional groundwater surface water model for the South Nation River watershed. This was a $1.2 million project that would not have been possible without the funding support from Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. Next slide, please. We have a long-standing agreement with Water Survey Canada and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry to use and help maintain the stream gauge network across our jurisdiction. These water quantity monitoring stations provide real-time data that supports provincially delegated programs such as flood forecasting and warning and low water response. This data also supports our development and septic reviews and our floodplain mapping projects. South Nation is getting more and more requests in recent years from governments to deliver programs on their behalf locally. Our agreements with our agreements with Environment and Climate Change Canada for projects like species at risk habitat monitoring are examples of recent work that we've done. In the photo, you'll notice some construction that went on in August 2019. This was a partnership with Environment and Climate Change Canada to create Western Chorus frog habitat by creating seasonal pools for them to live and grow. Next slide, please. We work to protect people and property from natural hazards such as flooding and erosion. Having up-to-date floodplain mapping and comprehensive risk assessments are crucial to ensure safe and sustainable development and to support our municipalities in their emergency management and response. Our team of professional planners, engineers, hydrogeologists, biologists, and foresters work to support our member municipalities that do not have this expertise in-house. Our staff provide comprehensive development reviews to municipalities on natural hazards and natural heritage. We provide and update floodplain mapping. We provide support to municipalities in stormwater management. And more we've been asked to provide advice and to partner on low impact development projects and other climate change adaptations as we move forward with climate change in this area. Next slide, please. Our expertise and proven track record for delivering environmental projects presents many opportunities to work with industry partners. South Nation has been working with Ontario Power Generation's Regional Biodiversity Program since 2016, implementing projects that protect and enhance local biodiversity and improve habitat for species at risk. We've recently partnered with Ducks Unlimited Canada to assist them with their wetland conservation, restoration, and creation projects in Ontario. We've worked with Forest Ontario as a 50 million tree program delivery agent since 2006. This partnership has helped to plant millions of trees across our watershed, including a record tree plant this year. Local developers have been partnering with the City of Ottawa and South Nation, as well as the local Finley Creek community, for over a decade, promoting stewardship activities in and around the Leitrim wetland. The partners meet twice a year through the Leitrim Advisory Committee, of which you just saw the minutes today, where we share updates and collaborate on projects. And in recent years, we've had the opportunity to partner with Enbridge Gas through their Sustainable Community program. They provided $5,000 annually that supports activities like the generator installation at the Chesterville Dam and restoration work at J. Henry Tweed Conservation Area. Next slide, please. We work with our neighboring conservation authorities to provide consistent and cost-effective programs to our member municipalities, especially where we share jurisdiction. The light detection and ranging, or LIDAR, and flood risk assessment projects that Sandra just mentioned in our slideshow are two recent partnerships that were developed. Projects of this scope are often not feasible when taken on alone and can result in inconsistencies as far as data and services if they're undertaken in isolation. The Ottawa Conservation Partners, which include Rideau Valley, Mississippi Valley, and South Nation Conservation, all work together to provide consistent programs and services across the City of Ottawa. This includes floodplain mapping, development review, and the delivery of stewardship programs such as the Ottawa Rural Clean Water Program, Ottawa Ash Tree Replacement Program, and the Green Acres Program. Next slide, please. South Nation has a long-standing relationship with our local Algonquin and Mohawk communities. Blending Western science and First Nation traditional knowledge ensures a holistic approach to resource management while respecting culturally significant species, places, and First Nation values. Creating ethical spaces for meaningful discussion has led to the development of culturally and ecologically significant places such as the Healing Place, which is located on our property in Shanley. South Nation is the co-founder, co-host, and co-chair of the Eastern Ontario First Nations Working Group. This working group has grown and evolved over time and is now a platform for First Nations, South Nation, and other partners to collaborate on forest management and other projects. This ongoing dialogue is an important part of the journey towards reconciliation. South Nation has recently completed contract work for the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne's Department of Environment, providing GIS training to their staff and recommendations for future floodplain vulnerability assessments, and we look forward to continuing that partnership with them. Next slide, please. So just to recap, in the full report you will find on page 44 to 46 of your agenda package. But again, South Nation has local staff that live and work with the communities that we serve. We have multidisciplinary teams with professional staff and highly skilled technical staff supporting them. We have decades of experience working on our landscape, and we provide a cost-effective service to our municipalities and our partner organizations. And with that, I'll turn it back to Angela for any last-minute comments.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think really the purpose of our presentation today was simply to start by looking at the list. Rhonda and I wanted to look at the budget, look at how much is coming from other sources, think about what it means to have those things available for projects like the Port of Prescott, for example. What does it mean to have that connection, that 20-year relationship to help with approvals for large municipal projects like that? What does it mean, you know, right now to have a skilled team ready when we're really at a time of shortages for all kinds of labor, skilled labor, consultants, et cetera, and how we are helping municipalities in the short term to bridge some of those challenges. And looking at this as leveraging of municipal funds, because in every circumstance, you know, if someone provides 5,000 in our past regime, we haven't, you know, looked at it and said, well, an SNC is providing $75 of municipal levy. So it's just to get us at the point where realizing that next year I will be in, or we will be in. I will be in because I worry about it every day. We will be in because together we are the board and people that go back. We're going into an election year, an election at every level. And I know that it's going to be hard to get into councils. It's going to be hard to have discussions because they may or may not have room on their agendas. And they also may or may not be in lame duck status. So I want all of us to start talking early about the types of meetings and the type of discussions that we want to have and how we want to be preparing ourselves for this next sort of regime where people are going to ask a lot of questions about every dollar that comes in here and how they're allocated and how together we as a group can figure out the best way to leverage the municipal dollars and paper over the agreement side of all of this. So I'm at your service and I'm pleased to entertain any questions on this.
Thank you, Angela. This is a very good presentation, actually, that presented by Rhonda, and I think I like your strategy, and I'm happy to see we've been talking about that in the last year, and now we have an opportunity actually to demonstrate to board and to the members and to the audience that are watching us on how we handle our program and how we move forward with our business. And this is also part of accountability also. So people and board member can see what staff and what our what kind of program and service delivery we're doing, and then we can, for us to be able to justify the levy and all the revenues that we're getting, and of course all the expenditures. Board member, do you have any question or any comment for Angela or Rhonda? Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Bill. Sorry, you're in the room, so I'm looking at it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I liked this report and the next one that we're going to be dealing with. And I had a question, and that was, do you see that this is the type of information we'll be sending off to the government? Because they're more interested in hearing, at least my understanding is they're more interested in hearing exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it and with whom we're doing it. And are we crossing all our T's and dotting all our I's? And I think this report and the next one certainly supports that we are. And I was wondering, is this part of what we will be forwarding to them?
It's a good question. I don't know that it's exactly everything that they're going to be asking for, but I was asking, you know, next year is our 75th anniversary of the Conservation Authority, and I was recently asked what era of conservation I think that we're in now.
Yeah.
And I think that we are in the era where we have a skilled team of professionals. We've been working hard for a lot of years, and we're going to have to collectively make decisions about what parts of that we're committed to maintaining and what parts of that we feel need some modernization and change. And I think these lists are going to be handy, though. You have to understand this to be able to do what we do together. Again, to summarize, last month I talked about $400,000 of our budget on the septic agreements. And coming up this month, I've presented to you in Rhonda's report about $1 million to $1.5 million of where the budget is coming from. So I'm working my way up to the full thing over time, so you can see how much of it is coming from where, in a global way, in a business way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's my thoughts.
Thanks, Andrew. Supplement? Thank you, Bill. I see Pierre's hands up, unless it is still from last time.
No, I'm good. I do have a comment to make. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's nice to see this type of report and show that all the work that is being done. Sometimes I feel that as board members, we come from a various background. We come from many municipalities, but all those municipalities aren't in the same stages of either development or the same priorities. So as board members, it's hard to sometimes differentiate what's good for my area versus what's good for overall in the watershed. So when we look at it as, pardon the pun, but as an ecosystem, when we all play a part and we all work together, I think it's very beneficial. Just one quick question in regards to the presentation. I saw the tree coverage based on the 2018 report. I'm just curious, is it every 5 years we redo? Is it in 2023 we're looking at redoing that study to see, to weigh how our efforts have been, either positive or negative, or what's the continuous impacts with all the changes going on in the watershed?
It's a great question. I think what there's a couple of reports that we want to bring coming up. One will be that one with the plan to update it, because the certified forest owners, among others, have the same question as when we're going to be releasing another one of those reports. And I think just to note that, I know forest cover, people focus on the forest cover loss side of things. I always like to say that tree planting and the forest cover loss is one part of the equation, but through all of the decisions we've made, we had really a large, if you will, a large sort of set of tools that we're using to address these challenges. And I think it's important for municipalities to know this as well. They may decide, in some cases, some municipalities have, to do implementation of tree cutting bylaws and so on. But some of the more important things that other municipalities through their levy are doing are paying for things like land acquisition, supporting our land trusts, supporting the 13,000 acres of land that we already hold. So while I think it's important to release the study often says, well, how many trees are you planting? If you're cutting 1 million, how many are you putting in the ground? And I think that that's one way of looking at it, but we have to look at it as saying, look, there's lands that are going to be cleared for a number of reasons. Some are fit for that purpose, others may not be. But that's it. It's a huge toolbox. Part of it's bylaws, part of it's tree planting, and part of it is land acquisition, among other things. So I think that part is an important piece to discuss. But yes, we'll bring back a report, because I'm also still thinking about last month's request about the ash tree replacement program and the ash tree sort of efforts that are required. And I really equate that whole thing to an ice storm level catastrophe that we all have to deal with in all of these woodlots. So that's a private challenge as well as sort of a public land challenge. There's a lot of ash trees that require some type of tending for a number of reasons. So together with this forest cover loss, let's also think about a few things and bring forward something to discuss in August.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Angela. I think it's definitely a conversation that has to come. And as you mentioned, it's not just one portion. It's actually, helping educate the population on all the different aspects. We often hear of people complaining that, they used to walk in the woods for years and years, and, now the farmer decided to cut it down. That being said, it's the farmer's land. He has the opportunity to cut it down if he wants. But I think that, we should have those discussions. If municipalities feel so strongly that lands should be kept forested, and it's, maybe there's some discussions to have whether we recompense landowners to do that. Because at the end of the day, I'm not a farmer, but if I was a landowner and I had a bunch of land and there's an advantage to me to cut down the trees and there's no advantages to keeping them up, well, that's an internal discussion, right? So I think we actually have to have those discussions with our farmers and the agricultural community and educate the public more in regards to that balance between all the factors.
Mr. Chair, it's Michael Brown. Just if I could be on the list.
So I have Steve. When Pierre's finished, I have Steve. Then I have you, Michael. Any other? Pierre, is that good? Are you done? Perfect. Okay, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a great conversation, and I think it's an important conversation. I guess the other piece too would be to allow people like myself. I own 2 acres, and I have planted some trees thanks to the free seedling program but I have a limited amount of space, but I'd love to participate. And I see things like the pollinators and the bee and pollinator program that are rolling out, because I do have a portion of my land, that has a ditch in it that's not doing much of anything, that I don't cut, that we might be able to use in a positive fashion. And all of these little bits and pieces of people who own maybe 2, 3, 4 acres, who may not be able to significantly contribute to the forestation aspect of things, but can contribute, and it would all add up. That might be an interesting aspect to add in as well, because I know the community have opinions on this, and it'd be great to give them an outlet so that they can actually participate in the capacity that they're able to with the limited size properties.
Great, good comment, Steve. Bill, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In terms of Pierre and Steve's comments most recently, I think the one thing that we all sort of have to keep in mind, I think, is, and I think it's very analogous to the Heritage Act and heritage properties. One of the, when the original Heritage Act was created, the idea was that you got your property designated a heritage property, and then effectively you received a form of a tax relief, because there are certain costs to maintaining a heritage property that would go beyond what a quote-unquote non-heritage property would have. Of course, over time, those side benefits were eliminated. And so now, if your property is designated as heritage, it's wonderful, it's great. It may be historically of posterity, but it's a tremendous burden on that homeowner because they have to maintain those heritage aspects at their own dime. There's very little in the form of grants and support for these private homeowners. There's a few, but they're not very extensive, and they're limited. And I mean, the reality is what does that tell you? It tells you that society fundamentally doesn't actually value these heritage properties as much as they claim, because if they did, they'd probably continue those tax incentives. It's the same concept with forests. Let's be brutally honest here, folks. If we had a regime that said, if you maintain, if you had a regime that said, maintain this forest and we'll give you some major breaks or incentives because we believe forests are really important. We want to maintain tree cover because it's good for the environment, it's good for plants and species. I think you'd have more uptake on that, but we don't. And so ultimately, I think it's quite analogous to heritage properties. There are some things in life that we just, frankly, as a society, put more value upon, and this is a great example of it. I hate to be so negative, but that's just my assessment of it. You know, absolutely, as Pierre noted, I mean, someone can have a forest on their property that, you know, is private, but has been enjoyed by their neighbors and the community for many years, and, you know, provided they go through the proper process, they can tear that down. And so, you know, I just think it's important to keep that in mind. What's the solution? Truthfully, I don't think it's ever going to be at a local level. It would probably require the sort of awesome powers of the federal government to try and come up with some sort of system to incentivize maintaining tree cover across the country. And I know some people will say, well, that's too expensive or it can't be done. And I would just remind them that the federal government has just blown you know, I think several hundred billions of dollars on maintaining the economy during the pandemic. So it's pretty obvious to me that some things are really important and prioritized and some things aren't. And that's just an example of it.
A great conversation, Michael. Good. Thank you very much. And Archie, Bill, then Archie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to strongly support the comments that were made by former speakers, and I specifically want to say that I think Vice Chair Pierre had some good points in that it behooves us to have some thorough discussions, and I hear the comment that sometimes we feel we can't make much of a change and it may be the federal or provincial governments we should move forward, but federal and provincial governments need leaders, and they need people that are making the suggestions and making the comments and making the demands, and I think that's one of our roles for the future. So I'm supporting strongly the comments that Pierre said, and I look forward to those discussions and the recommendations coming from them that we put farther along the line.
Well said, Bill. I agree with you, and thank you. Archie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a little bit of a interest in this, you might say. I have to agree with Michael. If people really want their forest cover, don't put all the financial burden on the landowners, on the farmers, because it's exactly right. I mean, if you've got a forest and you can't draw any revenue off it, and it's not maybe costing you a lot tax-wise or whatever, but I mean, with the price of land and everything that's going up and the price of the crops that are just skyrocketing within the last year, there's a real financial incentive there for people to clear land and to farm that land. And you know, the people say, oh, well, we want to keep the forest, Well, I'm going to be honest with you. Money talks and bullshit walks. So if you want the forest, the people are going to have to pay up to the farmers, because I have a real sore point when you can get all sorts of urban development, Walmarts, Costco's, whatever, that can go in. Not a soul says a word. Why? Oh, it's wonderful. I can utilize that. I like that. I like the subdivision. I like the shopping malls. I like the Costco's or whatever. You see a farmer drop down 10 acres of bush, all of a sudden he's your world's worst enemy. So the government, and it can't be at the local level, can't be at a conservation authority, you know, local level or municipal level or even a county level. It has to be, I agree, it has to be coming down from the feds. It has to come down from provincial. Somebody with deep enough pockets to make it worthwhile for the agricultural community, or maybe not even the agricultural community, just landowners to keep the land in forest. If you do that, I think you'll maybe see some people say, hey, okay, I can make, let's face it, if they're not going to make money off this, if it's going to cost them money, they're probably going to start looking at taking trees down. Simple fact, simple mathematics. It doesn't matter how you look at it. If the people want the forest, they're going to have to pay. They're going to have to come out of your federal, provincial tax dollars. Simple as that. If they really want to be serious about this project or this problem, then the bottom line is people are going to pay for it. I'm sorry, I'm going to rant on a little bit. I have a real, I'm quite passionate on one side of this, as you might guess. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, actually, thank you for your feedback and input, and that's why we're having the discussion, and that's why we're all at South Nation board members, because we're passionate about the environment, about our watershed, and all the files that we're dealing with. So don't feel sorry or bad about it. So I really appreciate your engagement. I appreciate your enthusiasm. So I know Angela want to say something.
Oh, I know, but I'm not going to get into the debate. So I'm just going to be the arbiter that enters in here. But, probably about 75 years ago or so, this watershed, was experiencing drought and erosion and challenges related to certain issues we're discussing again. So I think we as a conservation authority, are entering into territory. Sometimes people would say it's uncharted territory. I think we've charted the course a couple of different times, and I think it's we're all happy that we got a good rain last week, I think, and whether it's ash trees dying off or gypsy moths, there's always conservation authority, there's always something to worry about for another day. And so that's what everyone says. Hey, what era is the conservation authority in? The conservation authority is in the era where we are talking about those things that are important to us, and we should expect to have a good debate on these things, because these are not easy to solve. The issues are not easy to solve, and to put us, I guess that all comes back to the discussion about core mandate, though.
Yes.
And whether the business of forest cover in the watershed, to the extent that someone can say that's not part of core mandate, it's the very reason that we experience a lot of flooding and erosion in this watershed. So forestry and deforestation is very important for this watershed as an issue. It's flat, it's highly erodible, and it's highly productive for agriculture. So that's the era that I think we're in. So I think this is topical, timely, and always interesting.
Absolutely. Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as per a previous speaker, I think there are financial implications that are really important to, and some people are passionate about, but I think education fits in there as well. And I've heard Pat talk different times about a good forest isn't one that's left alone. A good forest is one that is, some parts of it are used. You take trees out, you get trees back in, you do different things to it, and there are some financial implications that can be positive for the owner as well. So we can't overlook the financial implications, but we must also be very thorough about understanding and the education to know how to move forward the best ways.
Thank you, Bill. I understand managed forests are really a good way to move forward, because you don't want them to overgrow, and then managing and balancing the ecosystem and our environment is very important. And those are going to be tough discussion. We're going to have a good debate on them. And then bottom line, I totally agree and understand with some of the speakers that this has to be federal. It has to be coming from the federal government on us, because we have to have some incentive. Other than that, people is not going to be part of it. And in anything we do in our business, incentive is important for all parts and all stakeholders. So I think we discussed this enough, and I thank you very much, Angela, and thank you all the speakers for actually the engagement and having this discussion. But this is not over, and we will be talking more and more about that. So can I have a recommendation? The board directors receive and file the Conservation Authority programs current SNC partnership update. I see John and I see Steve. All in favor? Received. Thank you very much, board members, and thank you very much, Angela and Rhonda. Item B is program and service agreements update. It's Angela. You can find it on page 47 to 49 on your agenda. So,
thanks, Mr. Chair. Good morning again. It's me, programs and service agreements. This is a report that we've brought different times at different years. Some of these are coming out of what Rhonda discussed earlier, and some of them are more related to the user fee side. So right now, staff are categorizing and working through a number of these municipal agreements. Specifically, what are the challenges with municipal agreements? The insurance requirements on municipal agreements have just been getting, what should we say? It's a tough insurance market. Yeah. And so each time there's a municipal agreement on file, the municipality wants the agreement updated, necessitating a go back to the council, a go back to this board, a back and forth between two insurers. So I think just the update is to say, look, we've got lots of these agreements. So just because you see one bullet doesn't mean that it's one agreement. It might be one bullet, Clean Water Act times 16 agreements. One bullet, sewage system inspection times 14 agreements. So imagine the amount of paperwork that's being generated for this. I think we want to make sure that the agreements are updated and on file, but we also recognize that each time the agreements are recurring. I brought this report to say, look, if we say these agreements have to update every year or every 2 years versus a term of council, for example, we are really adding a huge administrative requirement, and it's very important for me to have you understand that. I don't know that if I had to just keep these agreements all updated every year, that I would have time for much else. So I just put that on the table, say, look, there's lots of them. A lot of these are times, however many municipalities we have on these dockets. And they're not just a matter of taking out an agreement, refreshing it, putting it on a board agenda, putting it on a council agenda. It's getting onto the council agenda, it's getting it back to the board, and it's going back and forth between two insurance brokers sometimes, plus 2 or 3 sometimes different sub-insurers that are insuring different elements of the agreement. So I'm putting this to you to say, gang, we have a lot of agreements. Yeah. They make up a big chunk of our budget. And now that this core program and service discussion is going, we may have, for example, in the past had an agreement with the City of Ottawa that would have run multiple terms of council. Why? We might not have time to get on the City of Ottawa council docket for that particular issue. And as I said again, I'm telling you this because what era of conservation are we in? I'm not saying this is a process set up to fail. What I am saying is it's going to be a busy council table next year. Yeah. So if any support and any help you can provide me in this way, I certainly appreciate that and think it's essential for the proper functioning of the Conservation Authority as we move forward. So I put this here and I suggest that we have a little bit of debate and discussion about not only the level of effort required, how often do you want to see agreements, once every term of council, etc. And or what we want to do for next year, as we know that we're going in. We have to have these all approved for the 2023 budget, and how we want to table these as a board, and how we would like staff to direct their resources in this way. So that's it for me.
Good. Thank you very much, Angela and Chip. Thank you for putting it on the board table, and it's open for debate and discussion. Anyone like to start, or anyone have a want to talk about those agreements? And I see Archie's hands up, or that's from previous? Okay, don't worry. I would say personally that if you look at the amount of work and the reviewing all these program and service agreement, Angela, if the board is gonna task you of doing this review every year, I'm sure you're not gonna have time to do anything else, neither you or your team, for that. And also it engage also other stakeholders and other municipalities. So it's not always it's it's not only you and your team, you also have to work with the partners on that one. So basically, I personally think the way that we've been reviewing them right now is a per term council.
I should say too that sometimes it's per term of council, sometimes it'll come out of the municipality where they'll say, look, there's 4 agreements that need to be reviewed and we'll do them together. Yeah.
So basically sometimes the municipality, I know like for in case in the city of Ottawa, if we have to review the Ashley program, or we have to review the Clearwater program, or we have to, then we can submit a request, and then this is where you'll be looking at.
Yeah.
And in these cases, there is some, you look at some areas, you don't have to look about all the service agreement. There could be adjustment on some of the language or some of the funding model change, or adding or removing some of the criteria of the agreement. So I personally think if we keep moving with the model that we have right now, and update only if we have a request from our partners or our municipalities, and if it's not broken, don't fix it. And that's basically the way I'm looking at it, not to add to your plate or to the workloads in the meantime, especially throughout COVID. So, I mean, that's what I think, and that's what I recommend, and I'll listen to them.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hear the comments being made, but in effect, we're doing these things right now, and we have been doing them for a while. And I remember when we heard from the ministry that they were going to demand that all of these things be done, we did a quick review and found that we were doing them. And so I hear the comment that I don't think we have to review them every year, but I think that our staff does review most of them yearly and does see if they're still fitting in and moving the way we want to. So I think we're doing almost all of these things. I think we're doing them well, and I hope that it won't add that much extra work.
I agree with you, but I've said it before and I said it again. When we were debating 2 years ago, when the Ministry of Environment started bringing the new policies and the new the reviewing of the CA's authority in Ontario, I said it before and I said it again. If you look at South Nation, the way that we operate, I'm a bias because I know I know if you look at all the changes that ministry dropped on us, if you remember last year, Angela did a presentation, and we looked at every item one by one on how we are complying with with the CA's Act. I think we are all there. There is not much changes in the way how we do business. I think there is only one little changes we have to do from perspective of compliances, but that's all what we had to do. So I don't think things has to be changed like Bill said, and I'll add to it. How many you have to change since the CA's policy came down last? Remember we reviewed, there was 7 or 8 points, and I think we were compliant with each one of them.
Yeah, it's not a significant number of changes. I think though, even in all municipalities, the practice has been sometimes agreements aren't refreshed. As you know, they're not refreshed every annum, for example, or even every 2 years. There's some agreements that are on file that have existed for a while. And I think that part of this is going to address the need of municipal insurers as well, because we're seeing already these requests not just inside of the Conservation Authorities Act review, but through the insurance companies. And it's just a very large schedule of upkeep. And I think that that's just important to note, is just that it's a hard insurance market. So if you're going into the insurance market again every year or two, you're going to struggle, I think, a little bit with timelines in terms of getting these done in a timely fashion. So we're working through a few now. We've got some great local support from a local lady that's helped us with insurance a number of times to help us get through this. And I think it's just important to note that insurers and this this requirement for public transparency and accountability, there's nothing about that that's wrong. It just is challenging from the perspective of how much additional level of effort it is on all of those things. So we've got lots of people helping with that, but we always all prepare. We would all rather, work in the community than work only on paper, I think, so.
Well, Angela, from what I see and what I hear, and I know the board is in full support of the operation and how you're managing the team and how we're moving forward with this. And if you need to have a discussion on a specific file or an agreement, I think you're always.
No, and I think that's great. And I think the real purpose again to talk about this is if you see in there requirements for either annual agreements or something that's more often than a term of council, we need to be, I think, fairly responsive to that, because simply put, to renegotiate agreements on more often than a regular term of council would be a lot of administration.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other question or comment from the board? I see none. The board director will receive and file the summary of program and service agreements with partner municipalities, governments, and other organizations as individuals. I see Dana and Jerry. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Angela. This is very important and time consuming, so we appreciate all the update and sharing with the board the program and service agreement.
Thanks.
C, we have update requirement for community advisory boards, and I think Rhonda's online to talk a little bit about it. So Rhonda, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The report is on page 50 of your agenda package. This report is a receive and file, just a follow up from the report that Angela brought you last month in the supplemental regarding the public consultation that's occurring now for proposed changes to the Conservation Authorities Act. So just one more thing that we can check off our list. There is a proposition from the ministry to require conservation authorities to establish community advisory boards. We already benefit from over 20 years of standing committee participation and stakeholder engagement in our authorities. So again, I think this is another one of those items that's on the list that we can check off. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but this report is just a receive and file. Thank you.
To enforce what we mentioned earlier, that if you look at our practices and you look at our governance at the South Nation, you can tell it's only like check boxes, and we're moving forward with all the requirement. So this is a strong statement to the organization, of course, to our staff and to the board on how we're moving forward with governance of this watershed. The board directors receive and file the requirement for community advisory boards update. I see Bill and I see Archie. All in favor? Thank you very much, Rhonda. We appreciate that. We move to item 6D, update. We have minister zoning order, and I have Eric on page 51 who will be with us to give us some update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you said, my report is on page 51. Under Section 47 of the Planning Act, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing has the discretionary power to issue what we colloquially call MZOs, or Ministered Zoning Orders, and these permit development anywhere in the province, and this development gets to bypass normal review and approval processes under the Planning Act. MZOs have been historically used by the Minister to expedite government priorities such as transit-oriented communities, affordable housing, long-term care homes, and strategic economic recovery projects. Prior to 2019, the Minister issued about one MZO a year. Since April 2019, the Minister has issued 41 MZOs. Most of these are in southwestern Ontario. You may have heard that the Planning Act was recently amended to no longer require that MZOs be consistent with policy statements issued under the Planning Act, such as the provincial policy statement. This effect is also retroactive. We also are very aware that the Conservation Authorities Act has been recently amended, and that it now requires conservation authorities to issue a Section 28 permit for any development authorized by a MZO. Minister has indicated he will only consider using an MZO if the local municipality supports the development. While most of these MZOs are focused in mid or southwestern Ontario for the time being, SNC staff are taking steps to ensure that an MZO process is in place should one ever be initiated in Eastern Ontario. SNC will be engaging with partner municipalities to ensure local partners in development review are prepared for these potential MZOs. Earlier this month, our office sent out an email to municipal partners to give a brief update on MZOs in the province and encourage them to contact SNC to solicit input should their council be asked to support an MZO application in their municipality. Staff are also preparing amendments to the SNC fee schedule to recover the cost of processing Section 28 permits that are subject to MZO requirements. These are being drafted in coordination with our Ottawa conservation partners and will also be informed by the experiences of our CA partners in the South. The updates to the fee schedule will be shared with the board in August. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. I know those are not very comfortable conversation when you have an MCO order, and it creates lots of work and paperwork between municipalities and CA. So I appreciate the update, and I'll see if there is any question for you from our board members. Seeing none.
Mr. Chair, actually, just Mike Brown, very briefly. You know, what I will say is this, that in terms of MZOs, and yes, their ability to certainly dispense with or fast track certain processes that are normally put through the planning process. I do know that with respect to its use in the Toronto area, it very much was a reflection of what has been, by all accounts, even the City of Toronto's own admission, a pretty abysmal planning approval process that has held up a lot of projects and frankly resulted in a major housing crisis in that neck of the woods. So I'll be curious to see if it is ever used in the Ottawa region, but by all accounts, at least in terms of at the current moment, I haven't heard of the kind of I would describe as insane delays where subdivisions that are approved by City Council in Toronto are taking 7 years to register. That just seems insane to me. It'll be interesting to see where it's used, but I do know that the minister has very much noted that in his use of it, he's used it primarily for housing projects, particularly lower income housing projects. That term is a bit fungible because the price of real estate in Toronto is so insanely high that what we would consider low income housing here in Ottawa probably would not meet that definition in Toronto. But it is what it is. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Michael. Good conversation, and I agree with you somehow. And you never know with the market in Ottawa, we might have same issues that they have in Toronto very soon. So keep our finger crossed that will not happen. The recommendation of the board directors receive and file the update on the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing's use of minister zoning orders under the Planning Act, and further that staff work with partner municipalities and neighboring conservation authorities to prepare a fee schedule update and compensation guidelines for minister zoning orders. I'll have a mover and a seconders, please. I see Pierre and Archie. All in favor? Eric, thank you very much for the update.
Mr. Chair.
Pierre and Archie.
We move item E, on-site sewage permits issued, and then I think Allison's going to do this because Monique is not here.
I think she's invited David to do it so that he would have a chance to present to the board.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is David Schultz. I'm an approvals assistant. I'm here to share our monthly stats this morning. So this map shows our septic permits issued in the past month. To date this year, our septic team has issued 236 permits compared to 181 in 2020 and 190 in 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for the update for the board. And let's see if there is any question or comment for you. Seeing none, the SNC board directors receive and file the on-site sewage permits issued update. I see Dana and I see John. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you very much, David.
He's got one more too.
We have planning activities, and I think David's also presenting.
So again, this map shows planning applications that we received and commented on in the month of May. To date this year, we have received and commented on 267 development applications. This time last year, that number was at 184 and 190 in 2019. Highlights this month include a few site plan submissions at the 417 Industrial Park in Russell. We're also noting some new development in Edwardburg Cardinal. A big thanks to our technical staff who supported us with 24 technical reviews this month. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for those numbers are amazing, and it shows how our team has been busy and working through COVID and through those difficult times. But the town of Russell keeping you busy, I see that. Mayor LaRue need to slow it down a little bit. Thank you very much, David, for the update. Do you have any question or any comment or from the board? Seeing none, the SNC board directors receive and file the planning activity update. I see Jerry and Bill. All in favor? Thank you very much. And we have a last update is for request for approval permits issue. I think it's Jeff.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, board. The usual housekeeping report. This is showing that the permits that we've issued that meet the current policies for the Section 28 program. So that list shows that in front of you. Those have been issued since May 10th, and we've also updated the list of site visits with respect to complaints. And there'll be a few more coming that didn't make it onto this list yet. So it's been a very busy season that way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Any question, any comment for Jeff? Thank you, Jeff. And SNC Board Directors approved permit 60 to 76 issued under Ontario Regulation 170/06 development interference with wetlands and alterations to shorelines and watercourses. Mover and seconder, Michael and Steve. And all in favor. Thank you, Jeff, and we give you back time to go back to the field and to do your work. Emails.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we will move to number 7, our financial reports. We have A, request for approval, money received and disbursed registered for May 2021. It's Carl is here, so the board directors receive and file the money received report for May 2021, and further that the board approved the disbursement register of $984,669.73 for May 2021. I see Bill and I see Pierre. Any question, or Carl is available if you have any question or anything or comment. Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you, Carl. Motion carried. B is request for approval Ottawa River Hazard Mapping Project, and we have Sandra.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This report deals with the Ottawa River Hazard Mapping Project, and it can be found in page 65 of your agenda. So last month, we wrote a report to approve undertaking the project. I remind you that half of the funding for the project is coming from the National Disaster Mitigation Program under Intake 6. So we received the approval to move forward with this project from MMAH really late this year. This project then is going to be undertaken between South Nation, and we need to hire a consultant to help to meet the deadline of March 31st, 2022. The consultant will review the hydraulic model for the Ottawa River, and we will evaluate the potential effects of wind and waves, and also will would evaluate the effects of ice on the 1 in 100 year flow levels in the water levels and provide the final report. The budget included $100,000 for consulting services. So we put out a request for quotes and we sent it to 6 consultants that they are, qualified to do this kind of work. The quote is closing on June 22nd. And today I am asking the approval to move forward with this project.
Thank you very much, Sandra. I'll read the recommendation and we'll see if anybody has a question. The board of directors approve retaining consultant to complete the Ottawa River Hazards Mapping Project modeling to an accept limit of 100,000, including taxes, and further that if other than the lowest quotation is accepted, approval by the chair or vice chair is required. And I think you put it well and you explained it, so thank you very much. I'll see if there is board members have question or comment. Seeing none, can I have a mover and a seconder? I see Steve and Pierre. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Sandra.
Thank you.
We move to C. Approval sales of wood, and Pat is here for questions, so we'll have Pat for the update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Following the May board meeting and the direction of the board of directors, we reissued the tender for the sale of wood on our forest in Edwardsburg Cardinal. We did receive one bid by closing, and that offer is fair and reasonable. It is above the minimum that were expressed in the tender. So we're recommending that we award the contract to Contractor 8.
The tender was a little bit late on the response, and the board directors really directed Pat to repost it, and if this is the result, if I'm assuming, am I right, Pat, on that one?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I have a question from Archie.
Yes, thank you. And I was sort of the one that was wanting to retender this just for transparency's sake, if nothing else. But just out of curiosity, Pat, refresh my memory. What did we reject the amount from in the May meeting, and compared to this one, what was the amount in May?
The amount in May was 30% of the mill receipt for saw logs and $25 per cord.
So I guess it's worthwhile to retender. I don't know. Okay, it is what it is. If nobody wants it, we want it. Yep. Okay.
No, actually, you tried and you did it based on principle. So there was a full consent from the board. So you're good. Recommendation is the board directors approve the award contract SNC 61-2021 to the contractor A. I'll have a mover and seconder, please. I see Steve and Archie. And all in favor? Pat, thank you very much, and we appreciate the work you've done behind it. Number D is a request for approval, vehicle purchase and disposal. We have Carl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, staff are recommending that we acquire a new light duty truck to meet our increased needs through our programs for light towing and also hauling of equipment and supplies. We will seek out quotes from a range of local dealers on a range of different models and makes, and that decision will be made based on price, efficiency, safety, and ongoing maintenance cost forecasts. The disposal, we're also seeking approval to dispose of a surplus vehicle. That would be the 2009 Ford F-150. It's over 12 years old with 224,000 kilometers on the clock, and the average maintenance costs have been in excess of $3,000 over the last 2 years. That would compare with a new vehicle where we would spend $500, $600, $700 in maintenance costs. So the costs are creeping up, and there's also some body issues that it's not economical to resolve on that vehicle. So we're seeking approval to purchase a new vehicle and dispose of an older one.
Thank you, Carl. And the board of directors approved the purchase of a light-duty truck at an upset limit, 50,000 plus applicable taxes, and further that the board of directors approved disposal of a surplus vehicle. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? I see Michael and I see Jerry. Any question, discussion? Go ahead, Archie.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Like, I haven't got a problem with, getting a new vehicle, I guess. We approved this at budget time, but at budget time it was 30,000. And we're looking at 50,000 and the shortcomings coming out of reserve or a year in surplus. I guess my question is, why didn't we budget higher at, I guess we should have budgeted higher at budget time. If, we're 20,000 under, if we go to the full 50,000, we'll be 20 under on our budget, what our budget amount is. I just feel more comfortable if we had a better budget number to work with, since it was 30,000 at budget time and we're looking at spending 50, up to 50.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead, please, Carl.
Yeah, it's a great point. We did change the vehicle that we were going to purchase. So at budget time, it was a crossover type small SUV that we've been typically buying, like an Equinox or similar or Escape. And we looked at the program needs and we looked at the vehicle that needed to be replaced out of the fleet after budget was passed, and realized that the better replacement would be for that light duty truck. The budget was also done before some of the recent approvals that we've received in terms of funding. So it's put us in a better position to switch out that more expensive vehicle this year.
Okay. Yeah. I don't like it when we change hands in midstream as far as rowing down the road. But anyways, yeah, probably this is a better vehicle, but I'm just not crazy about approving one vehicle and then, okay.
Mr. Chair, Mike Brown, if I could be on the list.
Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, just very quickly, I think something though that we all have to appreciate as a board and going forward, and it's a word that frankly, I as someone who was born in the year 1980 have not been familiar with, which is inflation. We're going to be encountering it. It's inevitable. Many things are going to be, I think, going up significantly in price. We've already encountered that. Some of it is good. So, for example, perhaps the price will be able to command for wood sales. But on the flip side, it's well known that there was this quote-unquote microchip shortage that has impacted the price of cars. Lots of other products as well are probably going to go up. Let's be brutally honest, there is probably going to be a trade war with China in the next 10 years, which is going to impact the price of lots of products. And so I think just as a board, we have to just behoove ourselves to appreciate that we're in a very strange period where we've been in a low interest, very easy to predict pricing kind of world, and that is rapidly going to change. And, the easily predictable sort of COLA formula that I think we've all been living with for the last 20 years may potentially be going out the window in the next 10 years. We'll see, but by all accounts, every reputable business channel that I've watched, the prediction is that there's going to be certainly greater inflation than perhaps we've been used to over the last certainly 10 years.
Mr. Chair,
yeah, thank you, Michael, for your input on that matter, and I will, Angela, have...
Yeah, I think, as always, the board has a number of good perspectives. There's a number of discussions that we've had, including the one that Michael just had, sort of suggesting more expensive, things may get more expensive. There are some additional funds that came in, but Archie's point is a good point, and one I also discussed with staff, in that this should be part of a proper asset management and fleet replacement schedule. So we have general riders. Linda and I went back on that, and I said, Linda, let's bring back the full asset management policy and schedule so that we have that on a go forward. So that tells you in which year you're spending 30, in which year you're spending 50, based on the existence of everything in the fleet. So we did have the full fleet list as well when we made this discussion. So I take the point, and I think it's important that we have that in a proper asset management schedule, and that be brought forward to the board. So all the perspectives have been considered, and we will make sure that goes in for the future budgets.
Thank you, Angela, and you saved me from my direction, so you already read my mind. So
we had the discussion.
Thank you very much, and hopefully that we won't have these, we'll make sure that we'll be precise in the budget, and we'll look at all the items and our fleet numbers. So thank you very much. So we already have a motion. I already have a mover and a seconder. Can all in favor? Thank you. And now we're going to move, motion carry. Now we're going to move to our supplement agenda. We've dealt with 1A and B, and we're going to move to C. And estimated statement of operation for May 31st and 2021. Linda's here, and it is on your agenda, supplement agenda, page 11 and 12. The board of directors approved the actions and recommendations of the following committee meetings.
Sorry, I have to advance the slide. It's Linda's resolution on the page regarding the estimated statement of operations.
It's okay, I'll find it.
Oh, there it is. You got it. There it is.
Thank you. So the board of directors receive and file the estimated statement of operations for the year ending December 31st, 2021, as of May 31st, 2021, updated. I'll have a mover and seconder, and Linda's on the line. And if anybody have question, I could see Pierre and Dana. Any question for Linda or any comment from the board? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you very much, Linda, for preparing this statement, and we appreciate the work you do behind the scene on the financial of SNC. Number 9 is we have two letters, and they are presented to you on in your agenda package 69 and 70. Letter of Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry, Natural Hazard Funding Approval, and B, letter Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, Water and Erosion Control Infrastructure Program funding. Do we need them to move? We need a. Those are just for.
Simply 69 is the transfer payment from MNRF of 91,000 to confirm that that's coming in as budgeted.
Yeah.
And then on 70, that the Chesterfield Dam project did not score high enough on the water, like the dam, the money that the province provides for dams. I did email the Scott and Dave, and I understand that if a project comes on the list, it will be ours. Our scoring is the next one. So it's going to be hard to do quickly, but there's a chance that our project could still be funded. So we leave that out there for the board, and like I said, we didn't get approved in round 1, but there's still a chance we will get approved on that one.
Well, we got one at least.
We got one.
Boards, any question or comment? You have both letters in your package. I do want to thank the effort of our staff. I know you keep providing update, and I know that you keep applying for all the funding and grants that we can available for us, and we appreciate the work. Those take lots of time and also lots of effort. So thank you. And the dates to upcoming meetings, third Thursday at 9 a.m. unless indicated otherwise. So July we have no meeting. I'm going to give you all a break from us.
I may, Mr. Chair, depending on how quotes come in, I may have an electronic vote that I need to do. We'll see how the quotes come in, so please keep a little bit in touch with July. I won't bother you unless I need to.
Oh, it's okay, I'm not taking off, so I'm just trying, but yes, I did, I know that I will keep the board member knowing that keep an eye on your email.
Yep.
Because we do have an important item and we might need an electronic vote for July.
Yes.
And our next meeting after that will be August 19, and I'm hoping, I'm not gonna put Angela on the spot, it depends on the number and our public health unit. If this is possible, we might be able to have in-person meeting, but we'll keep you updated, and if you're not comfortable, please feel free. It probably is gonna be kind of a discussion of every board member. We'll leave it till that time, and then September 16, 2021, October 21st, 2021, and we have OEMC virtual conference October 21st in 2021. Those are the upcoming meetings and dates if you want to put them on your calendar, and if you need any question concerning those, you can email Diane. She's here in the room and she can hear me. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Further motion to the boards or discussion before we go to closed sessions? Seeing none. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
Yes, we would require a motion to go into closed session to discuss matters dealing with property acquisition.
Do you want to read it?
That the board of directors move into closed session for the following reports: request for approval number 1, land donation, and request for approval number 2, property matter.
So we're gonna move from here and move. We have another link for the board members. You have it in your calendar. If you have a problem, we're gonna give you a few minutes.
Could I get a mover and a seconder?
Yeah, we're gonna give them a few minutes. We're gonna give you 5 minutes for you to disconnect and connect, and then we're gonna go.
I'll move, Mr. Chair. Mike Brown.
Okay, and Archie, all in favor? So we'll give you 5 minutes to re-log in into your into the closed session, and we'll come back to open session.
Yeah, and same reminder that you're going into closed session. Closed session is private, and to make sure that you're in a place where the matters in business can stay private.
Thank you very much for reminding that, Angela. Thank you. I can leave you or just
no, Carl.
stayed for all of the Leitrim Wetlands Committee meeting because
Yeah, I think it was important.
There we
it
go.
was a good meeting, by the way.
Yeah, it's good.
And I didn't make this comment because I don't know the relationship with John and Meehan, but
We're live, we're on with the board
okay.
members.
No,
Well,
we're
Councillor
not,
Meehan
though.
always
We're not
goes
in
to the
closed
meetings.
session. We have to be in closed session.
No, we were.
No, that's where all the staff faces are. Turn the camera again off and then go to the closed session. Checking attendance. I'm just double checking attendance to see when I have quorum. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I have Hunter in.
Yes.
That's fine. Might.
You scared me. No, we're live. We're live. Yeah. So we have Hunter back. We have
Yes.
Giroux. We have Giroux back. We have RT Mellon. We have Deanna Farkashu.
I'm here.
I think I see Michael Brown. Michael, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect. Do I have,
Dana?
I have Dana already marked.
And-
Jerry Couts, you're on the line.
Steve is here.
Steve, thank you. And Pastor, if you wish, we have quorum.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Carl, may I ask, are we live yet?
Yeah, the live stream continues through, we don't stop it, so we're live.
I was wondering if we could advance the slide, please. Thank you.
My apologies.
Board of Director meeting move into open session. I have a move seconder. I see John and I see Pierre. All in favor? We're back in open session.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And there is a recommendation. It's going to be
Sure.
Angela's preparing something for us here.
Yes, sure. So the recommendation, Mr. Chair, that we're calling, again, the board is reconvening an open session following closed session to discuss two property matters. And for the first resolution from the board of directors, I'm seeking a resolution that the board of directors receive the property update from staff, and further that the board of directors approve the land transfer, and I should say of the North Dundas property, subject to conditions as discussed. Looking for mover and seconder.
I see John put his hand up and I see Pierre.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All in favor? Motion carried.
Okay. And the second matter we have in the from closed session dealt with another property disposition, and the property resolution as identified on that one is that the board of directors approve the land transfer to the township of North Stormont, subject to conditions as discussed. I need a mover and seconder for that one, please.
Thank you very much. I see Dana and I see John again. Thank you, John. And all in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you.
And that concludes, I think, our business for today. And the board director meeting of June 17, 2021 to be adjourned at
11:46.
11:46 a.m. And thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be safe. And we'll see you, and don't forget to keep yourself a little bit open for July if we need to have a meeting.
Mr. Chair, Mike Brown, very, very quickly, I had one item I was hoping to briefly talk about, and I appreciate everyone's got to go, but it was just a quick question. I know when Craig was speaking in regards to that event in BC, the terrible discovery of those children, and candidly, I think of the fact that South Nation is our headquarters are in a school, and I couldn't imagine how awful it would feel if there were such a high number of unmarked graves underneath our facility. It would just be distressing. All that to say, I'm just curious. I know that some municipalities, and institutions, lowered their flags at half-mast or whatever. And I know we have those flag poles prominently at the front of the building. It's not crucial for today, and I appreciate that South Nation, and I think through Chris, took a different approach. But it just occurs to me, and I just don't know the answer, which is, does South Nation even have a flag policy with respect to those poles? Are there situations where, heaven forbid, but if we were to lose a member of the board, or if a long-standing member or staff member of the board had passed and we wanted to move them to half-mast or something as a sign of respect, do we have any kind of policy on that? And what if certain community groups were to seek our support to put up a flag to support their, or show a sign of support? So it's just a general question of, do we have that kind of policy or not? And if we don't, why not? Maybe it's quite intentional. It's just a question.
Okay, so thank you very much. I know that this has been circulating in the back. I did talk to Angela about it, and I will let Angela, and I see John also, his hand is up. So I'll let Angela talk a little bit about it, and then we'll move to John, and so we can address quick about your request and inquiry. So.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. We did fly the flags at half-mast, which we do for a number of other reasons as they arise. The policy is currently informal. It's the general manager sort of directing staff to do that. I do know a number of the municipalities have policies, and certainly appreciate that there is a long list of policies available. So at this time, we do have a policy. Granted, it's an informal policy. It's basically at the direction from the general manager. And we did draft a policy if the board wants to have one. But at this time, that's sort of the approach we've taken for a number of years. And I suspect that that's the approach municipalities had taken for a number of years. And now they have a set criterion. The only thing I would also say is, it's a bit of a question. Flags involve, as many of you know, a lot of etiquette. And, so to put up one flag, presumably we would have to take down another flag, or we would fly two together, which always makes one ask, well, which flag goes on top versus the other. We fly four flags at all times: Canada flag, Ontario flag, South Nation flag, and the Franco-Ontario flag. And in our board chambers, we also have the Akwesasne flag. You'll see the purple flag displayed in the corner of our boardroom. So there's no formal policy. The Akwesasne flag was a gift from tribal members when they came to visit our office for special recognition. So there are many flags. We can do a policy if you like, or we can continue a practice of informal policy. So I'll leave that to the board for direction.
Thank you, Angela. John, you had your hands up.
Angela's response was excellent. And just to say that the flag will remain at half-mast for at least 1 hour per child remain. So at least for 215 hours, we'll continue that practice. Thank you.
Thank you, John, for the clarification. Michael, the executive will have.
That's fine. I haven't been out obviously to the headquarters since September. My God. So I'm glad to hear that the flags were at half-mast. Thank you.
So thank you very much, and we have a discussion also at the executive when we have our preparation for next meeting, and if there is anything we need to share with you, we'll let you. So that concludes our meeting. Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Please.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Thank you very much, board members, and to our listener and to our staff. Have a wonderful and beautiful day. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you. Have a great summer.
Thanks.
Have a great summer, folks. Talk to you later. Bye.
We can do our
Can I leave the meeting?
Bye.